Of course, today marks the start of hurricane season. Part of the U.S. already needs to be on alert. Hurricane Agatha dumped heavy rain in Mexico earlier this week. The storm caused mudslides, flash flooding as well. At least 11 people have died from the storm. It weakened and it is now moving through the Gulf of Mexico. It could redevelop as a tropical depression or tropical storm, and then it could pose risk to parts of Florida. Now, the storm won't impact us as we know it, but plenty of others have before, of course. That's why staying weather aware matters so much this time of year. On the left of your screen, you're seeing video from Hurricane Florence. Areas of North Carolina dumping dozens of inches of rain in parts of North Carolina. And on the right, you're seeing damage and flooding from Hurricane Michael right here in the Triad. We're talking downed trees, flooded roads, widespread power outages. Both storms caused billions of dollars in damages. More recently, Hurricane Fred brought devastating rain and storms to western North Carolina. 6 people died in that storm. Teams from all over the Triad deployed to the area to aid with relief efforts. Now, you've likely heard a lot about Agatha recently, and soon you might be hearing our weather team start talking about a storm named Alex. It is the same storm that we were talking about at the top of the show. The World Meteorological Organization assigns storm names. The name changes based on where the weather system is formed. Agatha, of course, forming in the Pacific Ocean. If it redevelops in the Atlantic Ocean, the storm becomes Alex. Now, an early start to tropical storm and hurricane season signals what could lie ahead. The NOAA released its forecast for this year, and Monique Robinson has looked at all of the data. So now I'm asking you, all right, so what are you seeing on the whole, and then, of course, right here for North Carolina?
Well, the NOAA has released earlier this month, May, actually, it's hard to believe it's already June, May, the details of what we can expect for this 2022 hurricane season, and that is above average. And that's consistent to what we had last year. We also had an above average season last year. Now, you can see here in 2021, we met the mark. 21 is the exact number that we got. 21 was the high end of the named storms that we could expect. Now, when we talk about hurricanes, the average was 7. We were spot on with that in 2021. And then when we talk about major hurricanes, we had 4 of them in 2021. And it's important to note that this season's forecast includes of what we call fish storms, the one that kind of form out in the Atlantic, but then don't actually make landfall here, which is important to note because oftentimes we run through the names, which would happen last year. We run through the names, but not allowed to make landfall, which is a good thing because we don't want landfalling systems. When it comes here to our western portions of North Carolina, as well as the central Piedmont, flooding and tornadoes are the biggest threat that we can expect. And so that's why it's very important that you're always staying weather aware. Now, when we're looking at the tropics now, not a lot of activity, but all eyes are drawing to the Caribbean as we're still looking at the remnants of Agatha. It has been tagged Invest 91, which means the National Hurricane Center is investigating this thing, and it's going to continue to do that until it's out of the clear from the United States and Caribbean islands.
Well, you might have noticed lots of forecasts from previous years look like the one that Monique just showed us. More hurricanes, stronger storms. You hear 100-year storm thrown around a lot. WFMY News 2's Tim Buckley verifies if it's actually getting worse and what causes it.
There are 2 main questions when talking about climate change and hurricanes. Will hurricanes become more frequent? And will hurricanes become more intense as the climate warms? The answers might surprise you. Data suggests that yes, oceans and the atmosphere continue to warm, but it also shows that wind shear will begin to increase. That's important because wind shear can rip hurricanes apart or even keep them from forming in the first place. And that suggests that the frequency of weaker hurricanes could drop over time. However, the storms that do form could be stronger thanks to those rising water temperatures. That warm water is the perfect fuel to throttle these storms up. But we should say the study of storms and climate change is complicated because of a lack of historical data. It could likely take decades before we truly know the effects of climate change on hurricanes.
It goes beyond hurricanes, of course. Climate changes threatens to bring more hazards to our state, like rising sea levels and increased drought rank among the top climate threats North Carolina will see in the next 25 years. Now, this Climate Central chart shows how 5 main categories of weather threats will increase in the Piedmont Triad as the climate change worsens. Now, hurricanes, of course, posing really big risks to people on the coast and right here inland. Storm surge along the coast can bring more than 20 feet of water to towns and wipe buildings away. The storms can then track in towards the Triad. Tropical storms can easily bring more than 6 inches of rain. That creates another major flood risk. If you're ever out in a storm, never try driving through flood waters. It can turn dangerous really fast. We have new technology in our state that could help save some lives this hurricane season. Flood gauges have been set up statewide. They've been used to warn if buildings were at risk in a storm, but new software makes it so that they can detect if bad weather could flood or impede roads as well. I want to give you a look at the map that they're using. It shows the radar and all the gauges statewide, which are those little green dots that you're seeing. The information collected warns emergency leaders if roads are at risk, who then, of course, they can pass on to those of us who are living nearby.
The primary reason for the development of these products is to save lives. Also, to help the department prepare for, respond to, and recover more quickly from major extreme weather events.
Well, several gauges are in our area. DOT says the programs will expand here in the next coming years. A bunch of people from the Triad, they love taking summer trips to the beach, of course. Some of us have summer homes, others need to rent or book a hotel. Check your rental agreement before you sign it. Most address bad weather and storms. If you rent and you have to evacuate because of weather, you might get a refund. It depends if you were able to buy insurance beforehand. If you opt for a hotel, the policy varies.
With hotels, the industry standard now is a 48-hour cancellation notice, but that can vary by hotel to hotel. Some will let you cancel or change your plans up to 24 hours before you arrive. Others require more time.
It all comes down to checking the rules and regulations before booking, and it's worth you taking the time to do that. Now, you can stay on top of weather threats all summer long and every day with the WFMY News 2 app. Our weather team has been rated most accurate 15 of the last 16 years and can prepare whenever severe weather is headed our way. Hey, make sure you have those notifications turned on. This is how it works well, right? You go to the top right, you go to settings, and you make sure you have those alerts toggled on.